I got this mic because I kept having to edit my reels before I posted them because nobody could hear me. So there's that. I don't think I ever told you guys my Koschei theory in terms of who I think he actually is and in terms of the crossover. So I'm going to go through that, and then I'm also going to tell you a bit of my puzzling theory about Vassa. So, as far as Koschei, whenever the war is, right, it's going to be major. Now, Moore tells us that the people of the continent are not signing the treaty. They want to kill the humans and take back their lands. We know that, Jurian is basically their general still. Vassa is their queen still, even though she's cursed by Koschei. My concern is that Sarah's going to blindside everybody and make Jurian the betrayal. I know I touched on this before, but I'm just going to touch on it again a little bit. The spellbook is missing. I think Jurian has it. He was the closest to the king, the one that Amarantha used to take their powers and things like this. However, Lucian calls him kingly in Akasif. Now, I'd like to believe that Jurian and Vassa get together because they're my ship, but I'm not going to be kind of ignorant to the fact that it might not happen. Now, Moore also says that Hybern is still on Hybern Island. The people are still there, but they are without a king. I can see Jurian becoming the next king of Hybern. Unfortunately, I can see him siding with Koschei if Koschei tells him that he will protect the humans or he won't touch the humans and they can keep their lands and he will kill anybody that tries to harm them. I can see Jurian doing that. If Koschei dies before the curse on Vassa is broken, which Helion and Feyre together have both tried to break the curse, and it didn't work. I personally don't see Sarah J. Maas dragging out the cauldron again. She could, but I feel like that would be a little cheap since we already did that in ACOWAR, but technically she could, right? But my thoughts are, I think Koschei has been turning Fae females into swans because he has been looking for Maeve. I think Koschei is the Valg King Orcus from Tog. Now, what does that mean? That means that he's going to be notoriously difficult to defeat. I think he's the oldest Valg King, so he's going to be smarter than his brothers, smarter than Erewhon, wherever Mantix is, probably on another planet. I'm shocked we didn't see him in Crescent City. But I feel like he is the smartest. And I feel like he changed his name because, as we know, they changed their names on different planets now after Crescent City. But we know the myth about Koschei, how he hides his soul in different places and he can't really be defeated. That's why he's called Koschei the Deathless. But if Vassa is killed, if Koschei is defeated before they can sever the bond to Vassa and Vassa is killed, then who is going to rule the mortal lands? Now, this thought just occurred to me when I was talking to the Dropbook Murphys. Go follow them, they're amazing. But if Vassa's killed, that means that perhaps Briar could become the queen of the mortal lands. And I say this because their ultimate goal, Prythian's ultimate goal, was to reunite the humans and the Fae. That's what Tamlin wants, that's what Phazan claims to want. So the reuniting of the Fae and the humans has been a big theme in ACOTAR so far. So this was like a little fleeting passing thought that I had, and I had to be like, okay, dial it back, this could actually be something. Did I crack the code of where SJM is going with this? I always say she added Briar for a reason. Now, as you guys know, I have been thoroughly and totally and completely convinced that Briar is Tamlin's mate. We know that the Fae can be mates with humans. This is if Briar is still human, but according to Feyre, she is, right? But if Briar is chosen to be the next queen of the human lands, right? And she has healed in Prythian among the Fae after her Hybern ordeal for 2-3 years now, I think. ACOWAR was like 2 years ago, because Nyx is almost 1. So like 2 or 3 years. This means that not only would she know a lot about Prythian and what it's like to live in Prythian, which is what she wanted as a child of the blessed, mind you, but she also knows how the humans are. So if she is like somehow elected to be queen of the mortal lands, or maybe she's somehow related to Vassa, who knows? We don't really know much about Vassa's family. She could have had cousins that went to Prythian at some point. Who knows? So if she becomes queen of the mortal lands and Tamlin's court borders the mortal lands and there's no wall now, which is what Rhys has been afraid of this entire time, Tamlin not watching his borders and the humans being at risk, I can see Sarah making them mates, Briar being human and the queen of the mortal lands, Tamlin being the High Lord of Spring, and them having to figure out together how to reunite the humans and the Fae like it was centuries ago, when they were all friends and they intermingled and all of this. And this would work perfectly if they were married or mated, because not only would they have to work together, but both the Fae and the humans would have to deal with that, and it would have its own set of like repercussions and stuff. And as I mentioned before, thinking that Tamlin's part of Aelin's line, and he can shapeshift other people just like he did with the Sentries and with Andrys. He can turn her from high Fae form to human form, and human form to high Fae form at will. It changes your DNA, which would change your lifespan, like Aelin. And we know this not only from Aelin, but from Feyre, because Rhys even says that Nyx has wings because Feyre was shape-shifted when they conceived him, which changes you down to the intrinsic level, down to your DNA. She was Illyrian when he was conceived, which is why Nyx is 75% Illyrian and has wings. So if Tamlin shape-shifted Briar into a high Fae, she can have a high Fae appearance, she can have a high Fae lifespan, and then back to her human form when she has to do her human duties in the Mortal Lands. I think this would be a tremendous way to bring the Fae and the humans together again. And I'm actually kind of shocked that I didn't think of this earlier, because I can absolutely see Sarah J. Maas doing this, because it not only solves that human-Fae intermingling problem, but it also solves, like, the half-Fae prejudice type thing that Prythian had going on. And it would have to be Tamlin, because his father was so anti all of that. His father hated the half-humans, hated the humans, enslaved them, abused them, and Tamlin said before, "I am not my father, I abhor everything he was and everything he stood for, I will always fight against tyranny." That would be a beautiful full circle moment. And I know this video is getting long, I apologize, but I thought of one more point. But speaking of full circle moments, because these things just come into my head, but I find it interesting that we know that seers are rare, but they're not unheard of, right? This is going to sound unhinged, but do you remember the first child of the Blessed in the ACOTAR book, book 1? That had all the bracelets and all the everything bothering Nesta, and Nesta was kind of bitchy to her, and she had dark hair, right? And what does she say? She says that her cousin went over the wall and is now living in luxury and peace, or whatever she says, with a Fey Lord. She's married to a Fey Lord. And if we're talking about full circle moments here, what if she was a seer and she was talking about Briar, who mates with Tamlin and is her cousin? How wild would that be? I would applaud SJM, honestly, if that's where this is going. Come on. Come on. That would be pretty amazing, wouldn't it? But anyway, that was my last thought, that maybe the first child of the Blessed was a seer, and Briar was her cousin, and Briar ends up mated to Tamlin. And she was literally just, like, quoting her vision that she had already seen of her cousin, because if you remember, Elena's like, "Oh, I think I'm dreaming. I think I'm always dreaming." So I think a lot of seers don't know the timeline of reality when they see their visions, so she could have definitely thought that Briar or her cousin had already gone over the wall and married a Fey Lord and all of this stuff, when in reality, it hadn't happened yet.